3, 2, 1. Lights out, away we go. Welcome.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, all right. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 2 of the BackMarkers F1 Show. Chris Kato once again joined by the very well-dressed Tyler McDonald.
Yeah, I'm overdressed for this. I was doing another gig before this. So.
Yeah, Tyler has been a very busy man. He was in Kingston, Ontario last night. Back here today for the Ottawa 67s game.
Just a second on Kingston.
Yeah.
And people in Kingston aren't going to like me for this.
Okay.
But it is a dirty city.
Is it?
Like, it is not clean at all.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with the streets, but they're just not clean. They're not paved well.
Yeah, I mean,
My poor car going down there. Jeez.
well, they have the prison there, so I don't know if that has anything.
We also
to do
have the
with it,
K-Rock
but-
Center. The K-Rock Center is a nice arena, a beautiful arena, by the way.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic arena. Really, really nice. Easily one of the best in junior hockey.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful arena. All around seating. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Hot dogs need a little work there, though.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that's why he's so well dressed, and I'm not. So, but
You look
but
good,
that's
Chris.
all good.
Don't
Thank
worry.
you. I
You have the
appreciate
tennis
it.
gear on.
I do. So, on today's episode, we're going to be covering the final week of testing. So, all of the preseason festivities are pretty much done now, and we're 2 weeks away from the first race. So, we're going to cover the last
2
week
weeks
of testing.
away.
Yeah, how
That's
crazy is
insane.
that? 2
That's
weeks.
Insane.
I mean, it's still two long weeks, to finally get there. But thank God that we're almost there.
Well, like realistically, like it's only a week because there's a full race week
The festivities,
of
yeah,
festivities. So really, it's only a week away.
Yeah.
If you really think it.
yeah. So the long
Wait.
off season, yes, the long wait is finally over. We're also going to be talking about some other news. Tatiana Calderon, the female,
fantastic to see.
female test driver now for Sauber. We're also going to be going over some of the aerodynamic tools we've seen used during testing. We're going to kind of explain it to him because if you guys were kind of watching testing and looking at that, like, what is that? What is this? Which we were asking the same questions. We're going to kind of break that down as well. So first thing that we could start off with is obviously the final week of testing. So we finally got some good weather in Barcelona. And
I don't know. I like the snow.
Yeah.
That's honestly, like, if there was a Grand Prix in Canada, I would, like, why it should be in the snow, and Pirelli should make snow tires.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Well, they could have used them last week. That was for sure. So
It wasn't. Didn't there used to be an extreme wet tire at one point, like a monsoon tire? I
yeah,
don't have that anymore.
yeah, that was maybe just for Malaysia when they would go over there with
Yeah,
those rains
They
and
should
stuff.
still have those though.
Yeah. Well, they had if you see in the video of Verstappen when he did his snow run, I think in Austria or
Oh, yeah,
somewhere,
it had
they put those like chains
the
on the
chains.
tires. Yeah. So
Like-
they maybe could have used those.
Imagine put chains going like 190.
Yeah, that
I
wouldn't
don't
work
know.
out too
I don't
well.
know how that would work out.
But thankfully, they didn't need it this week, so they got some good sun. It was still a little bit chilly. It wasn't maybe normal Barcelona conditions, but it was still enough to get the teams on the track for longer than 50 laps, let's say. A lot of teams that put in north of 100 laps,
Yeah,
which we're going to take a look at.
I think Ricardo on one day put in 3 times the Grand Prix
Yeah.
worth.
Well, let's take a look at some of the times. So
That's Sebastian Vettel lap.
we can start with the most laps that was completed per team. So this is the 2 tests combined. So the first test last week and then this test this week. So,
There's someone not on the board.
obviously, let's see if we can scroll down here.
Yeah,
There we go.
There's the McLaren.
So the first thing that kind of stands out to me, I guess, is what you just mentioned, is McLaren at the bottom of the list again. It's funny because you look at the contrast of where Toro Rosso is with the Honda engine, and they're in 3rd place in terms of most laps completed. And McLaren with the new Renault engine, they're all the way at the bottom. So, what do you make of that? They had a lot of struggles in testing. They had a lot of fuel leak issues. They had a couple of startup installation lap issues that sort of kept them in the garage. I know Van Dorn had a couple issues,
Didn't
and then
Alonso need a new engine at one point too?
I don't know if they did a full replacement of which chassis they were running, and also maybe if they changed an engine at one point. But he did have a spin obviously in week 1. So, do you think that these early kind of troubles for McLaren, even though it is still testing, do you think it's a cause for concern?
No, I don't think so. I mean, all the problems that have been going on with McLaren, they've been minor issues. So it's something that, and McLaren's kind of said that, said, we're not worried. It's small issues, things like will be fixed before Australia. I don't think it's too much of a concern for McLaren. Obviously, it sucks because you don't get nearly as much, practice time, as much testing time as all the others. I mean, Mercedes has 400 more laps than them. That's insane, the amount of laps. So it's not ideal for McLaren, but I mean, I think they can still try to manage it and get through it as well.
Yeah, to me, it's always difficult to sort of gauge the level of each team because it is testing. So, the struggles of one team could not really sort of define the rest of the season. So it's sort of difficult to tell. It's like preseason in any other sport, right? I mean, you could be undefeated in preseason and then not do so well in actually the regular season. But I think it's sort of frustrating for them that they hope that with this new Renault engine, they would be able to learn a lot more about their car in preseason, which they did. They did put in the most laps, in the hybrid era since the V6s came in 2014. But I think it's still sort of a head scratcher to them that they're at that bottom of the list of most laps completed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take a look at who's down there as well. I mean, Haas they've shown some great pace.
Yeah.
But again, the reliability for Haas is something that has been a little bit of an issue as well.
Right.
I'm surprised Red Bull's down there with only just under 800 laps completed. I think that's a team that needed a lot of testing going into this year with all their new parts, completely brand new side pod, which it looks fantastic and really has a lot of a very sleek side pod and probably the most tight side pod in terms of engine cover in the F1 on the F1 grid. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how these go throughout the first couple of weeks because obviously that's when they really matter. And there will still be parts added for Australia that we didn't see in testing that will be tested during FP1, FP2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we're really going to start to see the pace, I think.
Yeah, Force India, Sergio Perez was mentioning that, they weren't really able to see much from the car because they're going to get most of their new parts in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So, it's just like you said, we're only really probably going to be able to see sort of in the first couple practice sessions. But, Formula One put out an interesting graphic, comparing the testing from last year to this year.
Yeah.
And, some of the teams that did make an improvement was McLaren. So McLaren was about 3.5 seconds faster than last year. And, surprisingly, and I think it's encouraging to see that Haas and Sauber were up there on the list as well. And, teams like Mercedes and Red Bull were actually a bit farther down the list. So for me, I like the fact that those sort of backmarker teams, last season were able to show some pace early on in testing this season.
Well, you take a look. I mean, if you are a higher team, right, you do have a little bit less to gain because
yes, yeah.
So you think the higher teams, that's why you see Mercedes down there at 9th. I'm pulling the graphic up. That's why I'm looking at my phone.
Yep.
But Sauber, a very impressive 2.5 second gain from last year. Renault, very impressive as well. They've got 1.7 seconds. I think the biggest disappointment is a team that wasn't great last year and is last by 7/10 this year is Williams.
Yeah.
And like that's it does not look good. Their best lap in 2017 was a 1:19.4, and their best lap in 2018 is a 1:19.1.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought Williams up because if you guys missed last week's episode, we were kind of sort of talking about the teams and where they're going to rank this year after the car launches, and you said that Williams are going to rank all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I was kind of joking around like, well, you're not very positive, but when you look at the fastest laps of testing per team, they're all the way at the bottom. I mean, you see, Sirotkin is there, sort of a bit higher up, but Kubica and especially Lance Stroll too, they were at the bottom in terms of laps completed, in terms of pace. I mean, it's not, again, like we mentioned, testing is testing, but it's not looking that great at the moment for Williams.
I mean, if you're a Williams supporter, you got to be a little bit nervous going into this season.
Very nervous.
Because at first it was like, oh, all right, we'll see Sauber, Alfa Romeo, they'll be last by the usual amount they usually are, but they've been looking really impressive this season as well, a lot better than what they were. I'm sure it's with the new Alpha engine that helps out a lot. Williams, they have the Mercedes engine, they have the parts. I think the thing is that they're not developing their chassis the way they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we'll see how that goes into Australia. Of course, testing is testing. Who knows where everyone's going to stand? But it gives us a good indication on, are Williams going a little light because they're concerned about reliability? Are they just slow?
Yeah.
Just pure slow.
Just way off the pace. Yeah.
And what changes can they bring for Australia?
Yeah. Yeah, because, when you look at the times, they're well down. And, we were looking at just that Sorokin lap. Okay, he's on the soft. But, they just didn't do a whole lot of running. So with the 3-engine limit for this year, I think there might be a little bit of conversation. There might be a little conservation there for the teams and stuff. But yeah, I mean, they were just looking really disappointing.
I think the only positive you can look at is that you were only a tenth slower than a Red Bull on softs. But I mean, that's Max Verstappen. I don't know. I'm not sure what he was testing on the car.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, we see Sauber that they just placed higher, and then
there's so much. You have to look at the tires so much with this going on right now too, because of the new hypersofts and everything's a step softer, right? So the hards from last year are now the medium, or they're now the super hards, pardon me, and vice versa. So not only is the hypersoft a brand new tire compound, but the ultra softs are brand new as well. Yeah, because the ultra softs are now the super softs from last year. Yeah, if you're complicated, don't worry, it's complicated.
So are we.
So there's two softer brands of tire this year.
Brands of Tyler. Yeah, I want to grow the brands of Tyler.
No, you don't want to see those. Those are not good. Two softer brands of tire. Now you got me saying.
Now you got it. I told you.
And so that's huge. We're gonna see times. That's why we see these lap times dropping. 1:17.1.
Yeah.
From Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Raikkonen not far off either. 1:17.2.
And that. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, which is huge for Raikkonen, because if Vettel doesn't have a great start to the 2018 season, I mean, who knows? It's F1. Yeah. Kimi Raikkonen can now make a push. He has that ability to be, okay, you know what? Listen, this is the pace I have. I can still run with Vettel. Give me the right parts, give me the right setup, and I'll take it from here.
Yeah, and he set that lap, and the viewers at home can see this graphic as well, but he set that lap on the final day, on day 8, after Sebastian set the lap on the day before. So both on the Hypersoft, which is really interesting. And yeah, we're seeing some really ridiculous times.
I think the most impressive time out of all that is Kevin Magnussen in the Haas.
Yes,
on super softs.
They had a really good day on day 8 and 7. Yeah,
1:18.3. So that's ahead of Gasly on the hyper softs, ahead of Hamilton on the ultras.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too. If you look at where Lewis Hamilton is, he's a bit farther down there on the ultra soft, but I'm skeptical. I think Mercedes might have had the engine turned down a little bit.
100% they did.
Doing some long run testing.
That's what they were doing this week. So you can read into the Mercedes times. But you can really read into that Haas time, saying, this team could be scary fast. This might be a team that could win a race this year. Right. If it's, say, a race like Baku with something crazy
happening, yes, yeah.
Which, I mean, I hope Baku ends up like last year, not the first year. The first year Baku was boring. I fell asleep. The second year was fantastic.
Very interesting now, because they have moved the race from June to April.
Yeah, because of that mix-up, because they had Le Mans the same weekend, did they not? 24-hour Le Mans.
Oh, you know what? You might be right, yeah, because I think Le Mans was in June.
I'm pretty sure it was the same weekend as Baku, and everyone was complaining.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't follow what the reason was. I know June is sort of, because they come here to Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix. Right. And I think that was when it was scheduled last year. But yeah, that might be the reason why. So,
Baku's was right after Canada.
Yes, yeah.
Now it's France, which I'm excited to see. There's a brand new track this year.
Back on the calendar, and I believe the German Grand Prix is back, and I think they are at Hockenheim, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know. They're confusing in Germany.
Yeah, well, they have a ton of great tracks. They do, the Nürburgring and Hockenheim.
Who knows if they'll be back next year? We don't know. We don't know, and we don't know what's going on with the British Grand Prix either next year.
Well, I believe the contract for Silverstone is done. Is it done?
It's done after this year.
After this year, right? Yeah.
So they're thinking: do we do a London street race, or do we try to continue with silver? Like there might not be a British Grand Prix next year, which would be a shame, because there's so many fans down in Great Britain, England.
I think they'll have a race. I mean, they got some good tracks. They got Brands Hatch is there. Tracks. I think Donington as well. But I know that for a fact that they really are trying to push for that London street race. And there was a video that came out a couple years.
I've been on the streets of London. I've been to London, England.
Hard to do?
It's... Yeah, I don't know if there probably is a great spot you could do it. I mean, I'm sure you do it by the Buckingham Palace.
That's where they were looking. Yeah,
and it would be very interesting. I know if someone's watching in England, they're gonna absolutely laugh at me. But I know there's an arch that you have to go under, which looks really cool, which would be awesome. There's a roundabout that you could turn into a corner. There's a really long straight where they have all the flags up that is beautiful in general. which would be very cool to see a good front stretch down. But it is very tight.
Yeah.
It would be it would almost have like a Monaco sense, but obviously a much different track.
Yeah.
But that's how tight it would be down there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they put any stands, but I mean, I'm sure they figured it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's always the issue, right, with the street races. You know, you got to work with the city, you got to work with, you know, the government, and then, like you said, putting in stands, putting in, you know, merchandise shops and food places, stuff like that. And then obviously just the track itself, the asphalt, and, you know, welding down all the not the potholes, sorry, but the manholes.
Sewer drains,
yeah, the sewer drains.
You don't want to Romain Grosjean.
Yeah.
That was scary.
That was very scary. Yeah, you know, that could have ended even worse. But you know, it's interesting, you know, that they're looking at doing other races too. I mean, like New Jersey has always been a list. Miami.
I would love a race in New Jersey because mostly I can go
it's
down
close
and
to
watch
us.
it.
Yeah, it's close to us here in Ottawa. So it'd be, you know, we could knock down 2 races a year.
In a year, which is huge.
Yeah.
Miami is always something. I know Lewis Hamilton wants Miami because you can party down there.
Yeah.
So he said Las Vegas too.
Blessed.
He said Las Vegas too. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously 2 party cities.
I think Vegas would. They did a race in Vegas, but
Yeah,
it was in a
in a
parking
parking
lot
lot.
of like the Caesar's Palace or something.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. But you know,
Have you ever seen video from that race?
yeah.
Oh my goodness! What?
Who won it? It was Keke Rosberg, I think it was, right?
Keke, yeah.
Yeah. But that was it was just I think they did it 1 year and that was it, right?
It was 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't remember though. But the U.S. I would love to see them back at Indianapolis.
I would too.
It's a fantastic racetrack. I remember playing it, you know, when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Playing on F1 Career Challenge 2001 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was 2001. I had
You
the
go
same one.
It's just there's some great memories, but there's some terrible memories from
Yeah.
Indianapolis. Of course, that whole tire controversy with Bridgestone and Michelin.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge. And Ralph Schumacher had a huge accident there too.
His tires exploded.
Yeah, I think he fucked up his back for quite a while too. So that was pretty scary. But yeah, the tire controversy, I think that just really put a sour taste in the mouth of U.S. fans. I mean, if you imagine that you pay a lot of money, that was back in 2005, I believe.
I don't remember actually.
Yeah, early sort of 2000. So, you know, ticket prices were probably still expensive then, but not as much.
That was when F1 was really its hardest, like at its peak.
Yeah.
It was a lot more popular than it is right now.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know about like revenue ticket sales. I'm not into that, but in terms of, you know, hype around it, there really was a lot when the Schumachers were there.
Yeah.
2005,
Alonso
2009 area.
Yeah, the young Alonso, and you know, obviously the V10 engines. Like a lot of people just came for that reason. And, you know, that was a big thing in the States. Is that, you know, after that was sort of the end of a Formula One United States relationship until obviously 2012 when it came back in Austin.
Which is a beautiful track.
Yeah,
a lot of fun to watch. It really has a lot of aspects of every track that drivers like, and from what I've seen from interviews, is that every driver loves the Circuit of Americas. Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, and especially the city of Austin too. You know, great reviews about that. So I think that they could do, you know, more, and that's the thing, is that they're really trying to break into the American market, which it makes sense. I mean, there's a ton of people there. There's a lot of opportunities for business and for, you know, finance, revenue, that type of stuff. So, you know, there's so many options though. There's, you know, they used to be at Watkins Glen.
That's right, yeah.
You know, that used to be a race. They used to do obviously street races in Long Beach, which IndyCar now does.
Sonoma's a nice track as well.
Yeah,
in
Sonoma.
the desert there. There's
a
Road
ton.
America.
Yeah, Road America. I mean, there's a lot of really solid tracks. I think, you know, Formula One could easily go to. But Indianapolis, I think, is just one that, you know,
it's iconic, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's just so much history there.
Daytona has an infield as well.
Yeah, the one that Rolex 24 used. Yeah, exactly.
Which, could you imagine F1 cars on that
on the banking? I don't know if that would work.
Going that fast?
They'd have to change the ride height of those cars, I think.
Well, yeah, they might. You're right, but it just, with the amount of speed they could get in the corners, that'd be something else.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and especially now with the slick tires and Pirelli, and, you know,
maybe that's why they're not back in Indianapolis. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, and obviously for us, you know, being here in Canada, it would provide us with maybe some more options to, you know, go to some races, even though it's a little bit out of our way, but like you said, in New Jersey would be close. So,
and same in Mexico, right? Mexico didn't have a Grand Prix for the longest time. Now they have one, which is, again, another great racetrack to really see. I love the stadium section, that racetrack, but the North American demographic, I think this new F1 ownership is trying to get into.
Yeah.
Really trying to get into. And it's always been there, but it's never been exposed to its greatness like it should be. And that's not taken any away from the European markets. They shouldn't take away from the European markets. They shouldn't take away from the Asian markets as well, because that's where it's most popular. 100%.
Yep.
You go to the States, NASCAR is the main auto racing sport. And the fan interaction that they have. I've been to a NASCAR race. I went to Charlotte, North Carolina. And the fan exposure, the fan experience that they have there is absolutely phenomenal, and it can't be beat, I think. You're right.
Yeah.
I was in a park, a trailer park, and there was drivers signing autographs in the trailer park.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because they also live there as well.
No, they're at their team station. It was just outside of the actual racetrack.
Okay.
You got to rent headphones, and you could scan between every single team.
Oh,
and
nice.
hear the drivers live. So I was watching the race, and I got to listen to it was a phenomenal race. We got to listen to the last 3 laps. If everyone knows NASCAR, it's a Coke 600, so it's an iconic race, longest race of the year. And I got to listen into the final laps. I was listening to Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I could hear from live time before everyone knew, I'm out of gas on the last corner on the last lap. I could hear him. I'm out of gas. And so I looked up, and there he was, slowly starting, and Kevin Harvick came up and won the race. That's the fan experience that people need in F1. Could you imagine listening to that real time, being at the racetrack, listening to your favorite driver, radio conversations? I'm sure the teams would hate it.
Yeah, they would. They already hate it.
Yes, but it would be fantastic for the fans.
Yeah. I mean, if you just imagine just sitting there in the stands and hearing Fernando on the radio
GP2
or Kimi,
engine.
yeah, just leave me alone. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That I completely agree. And we can actually touch on this a little bit more, just in terms of fan experience. I think that's one thing that, like you said, NASCAR, really, really gets it. From my personal experience last year when I went to the Canadian Grand Prix, the event itself, what you go for is obviously the cars.
Yeah.
That's a great experience and you really enjoy that. But in terms of the fan experience, I think they just really missed it. And I believe it was the 50th anniversary of the Canadian Grand Prix, something like that.
Something of racing in Canada, F1 racing in Canada, or something like that.
Yeah. So, it's a special event. It's momentous. And, man, they just really missed the mark. I mean, we got there on the qualifying Saturday.
But were you there before the new owners actually took over?
I was there in 2013, yes.
Yeah.
And, it was a bit better in terms of they had more giveaways. They had a little bit more fan interaction.
Because I feel like the second half of the season, it really started to feel like a different F1.
Yeah. And the thing is I'm talking more in terms of the actual track organizers
right. Yeah.
and not so much, and maybe they need to work together as well. But, we got there and, we had to wait in line for like an hour just to get our tickets, even though we already had our tickets purchased. But, you got to get it validated. You got to get it printed off. So, you got these lines that are going almost out of the park, and cars are already going out on the track.
Well, and that's what every second that a car is on a track, you want to go see, because some teams will spend 10 minutes in a practice.
Exactly. And it was a practice session, right, just before the qualifying. So Saturday is sort of one of those limited days because they only do, the 1 hour practice and then the quick qualifying.
Whatever other races are going on, the mini series that are going on. Nissan Micro Cup or something, I don't know.
Yeah, or Ferrari Challenge, which is great, but you're there for, obviously Formula One. So I think that the F1 owners and the track organizers, they need to do a little bit of better job of coordinating, like you said, a good fan experience. Because you want to leave there with something, whether it's a free giveaway or whether it's just a really good experience where it's like, I want to come back next year. Because, if anybody knows anything about going to a Formula One race, man, it's not cheap.
No,
it racks up. If you're going with a family, I mean, good luck. Because it's going to cost you a couple $100s.
Even merchandise is expensive.
Merchandise right? too. Yep, exactly. And that's not counting, driving there or hotel or wherever you're coming from. So I think they really need to address that, because I think, like you said, NASCAR, they do it a little bit more fan friendly, which is why it's a lot more popular in the U.S.
No, 100%. NASCAR does a lot to make it. I know they have obviously their garage passes where you go down and you can walk inside of the garages and see where the guys are working on the cars right there in front of you, and they have a little window with a little slot for autographs, and the driver will sit there. They have an allocated time to be there, and they have to be there.
Yeah,
and they sit there for whatever it is, 30 minutes to an hour. and sign autographs and
Yeah.
meet fans, and you can walk. I mean, we see it too with F1. You have your pit passes, you can walk and meet the drivers there too.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is all.
But I mean, like,
very common. These are thousands of fans.
yeah.
Tens of thousands of fans down there in the pit level, not just 1,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want a pit pass, like maybe be prepared to tap into your life savings or something like that. 'Cause
In F1, 100%.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think
but
that
in
comes
NASCAR,
cheap.
it's not that more expensive.
Well, and the same goes for IndyCar. I mean, the race in Toronto, the street race, it's the same way. I mean, you can get your paddock, tickets, which have gone up a lot in terms of price over the last couple years. But still, you can get in there, and like you said, your drivers are right there. They're coming in and out of the pits, so you see them. You can get your autographs, you can get your pictures. Some are really nice. They'll come out, if you're waiting for them outside their, their trailer home, and you can see the cars. They're right there. They're working on them and taking it apart. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we went to Sebastian Bourdais' pit, or not the pit, the paddock area where his car was, and I got to sit in his car.
That's so cool.
And I was like, I don't know, 7 or whatever at the time. But like I said, it was just such a cool experience. So, to do something like that for kids and stuff like that, that was really a really fan-friendly type of event. So because they're very closed off, with their drivers, they got their separate homes, and, you really can't get access to them. So it's a shame.
Going now, we'll head to where we see this kind of heading toward Australia, because there was a headline on F1 that said fan experience closer than it's ever been at Australian Grand Prix on the F1 site.
Yeah, I think
I didn't read the article. I don't know if you want to put. I know it was up.
Yeah, it's cycling through the
there's
website.
F1 TV. That's another thing. We'll get to that another day.
Get to that later. Yeah. This one.
Getting
right?
closer to Formula One in Melbourne, which if this is where we're going to see kind of their new strategy to interact fans, and we'll see what this says here too. I mean, there you go.
Whoa,
okay. Hero package. This is in US dollars. A hero package. I don't know what that means. What a hero package means. Maybe you get a cape with it.
I don't know.
$1,600 US. $1,600. You know how much I can get for $1,600?
You can get an F1 VIP access to Melbourne.
yeah, that I can get two go-karts if I wanted to.
Oh my God.
And that's not even including hotel. I don't know what the hero package is. I don't know if it says 1 day access. That's only a day. $1,600 for a day.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta be rich.
You know what, man? Like, just skip a mortgage payment so you can go and get your F1 VIP access for a day.
Does it say what a hero package is? Are there any other packages other than hero?
No. I mean,
can we go down?
Package prices. Oh, you get hotel.
Oh,
okay. Oh, Jesus Christ.
$3,400 with. Oh my, come on.
Okay, that's the Crown Plaza. Let's go to this one.
That's
4,000. Oh, Jesus Christ.
What? Like,
yes. I mean,
you can only get the hero package.
We were just talking about. Well, let's go to.
What is? Oh,
we can't get Canadian dollars.
Australian dollars is dollar for dollar with Canada.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
So Australian dollars, what would it be? Or we get 6,000. No, 5,300.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'm looking up the hero packages. I'm curious. You talk for a bit.
It's funny that we were just talking about that and just looking at it. I mean, if you wanted to get something like that for a NASCAR or IndyCar race, it would probably be, not even half the price. It'd be way less than that. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem, is that they cater more toward, somebody that has a lot of money and people that can afford it. But, somebody average like me and you, I mean, there's no way that you could afford that even. And for just one day too. That's the crazy thing about it, is it's not even like you get it for the whole weekend and you get some meals and accommodation with it. The accommodation comes separate. So it's gonna cost you a lot.
Okay. I think this is for Canada.
Okay.
I don't know how I got it. It was the first thing. An exclusive pit lane walk. Guests enjoy up close, unobstructed view of personnel in garages, which are unavailable to the public. Perfect photo opportunities, visit to team garages, the normal stuff.
Yeah.
You got to drive the track on Thursday, so you have to come Thursday for this. An expert-led tour on a flatbed truck or similar vehicle around the track. Feel the turns. I don't know how you feel the turns in a flatbed truck, but I mean, and unique views around the track. I get the views, but you can't feel the turns in a. Anyways. Starting grid photo with the trophy taken by an F1 Experiences team member and emailed to you after the event. which is hilarious. Can't even post it during the event. Paddock party with Force India's Esteban Ocon.
Oh, wow.
That's cool. That's worth $1,600 right there. Esteban's a great guy from what I've heard. Gourmet cuisine, open bar of wine, beer throughout the evening. This is Friday night.
Okay.
Full paddock treatment with hostesses, servers, exciting simulators and games, and meet and greet with Sebastian Ocon. That's pretty cool.
But is this the same thing? Is that
this is all the hero package?
Oh, the hero package. Okay.
Insider access to the paddock. I think it's the same safety car drivers. Get to go to the cool down room, the media room, the Pirelli tire tent. Come on,
boy.
The safety car garage. Come on. Podium photo opportunity and extras, which means you get gifts, lanyard, ticket sleeve, race program, and F1 Access annual pass.
Oh, okay. So then there's a bit more than in it.
So there's
than
a decent amount of this for $1,600.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a weekend, and you have to go down on the Thursday.
Yeah.
If you want to do your pit lane walk.
Right. Right.
The drive the track.
Boy.
And that's not including hotel.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same
separate,
price at every track, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
there it is.
A once in a lifetime experience. But, geez, that's like, can you split it between two people? Can you be like, hey, like I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't think so though. I think same with the ticket, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You have to get a ticket per person, so maybe they have something for a group package, but that's even more.
If I win the lottery, I'll do it. But like,
yeah,
I don't have $1,600 to spend to hang with Sebastian or Esteban, not Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon.
Yeah,
which would be sick. But come on, $1,600.
That's that's exactly what we were saying. And
better be a nice steak. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
nice steak. It better be a $300 steak.
probably that you have to pay for it.
No, it comes in the gourmet meal on Friday night with the open bar.
Okay,
I'm getting, if I'm at that open bar, I'm getting absolutely plastered. I'm getting every single penny's worth.
Yeah. Just take out the whole thing.
I'm taking a champagne from the podium too.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean that's just the hero package. But then if you went to just the tickets too, I mean that costs you as well. So they're gonna need to make some changes just to entice some people to come to their races. Oh, you get grandstand
one seating too. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, okay. So that's all included.
You do get a seat.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Fair enough. Yeah, you're just in the pits. So. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the new owners. I think one of them.
It says on the side. Oh, well, look how smart we are.
Oh, okay, it does there. Yeah, but I think that one of the new owners. I think Chase Carey. I think he's American, right?
I know one of them's American.
Yeah, so
one of them has a great mustache.
I think that's him. Yeah. So Chase is the one
better.
with the great mustache, and then there's obviously Ross Brawn. But I think Chase is the one that's from the U.S. So hopefully he can sort of bridge that.
Hopefully he can try to get those costs down from $1,600.
Yeah,
I mean, if I'm like, I'd stay in a crap hotel. I don't care. Like, I wouldn't include their hotel packages. I get some sort of terrible hotel, Airbnb or something. That way you can save a little money. I'm not spending $4,200 on a weekend.
Exactly. But I mean, they're still new, so we'll give them some time and we'll see how it goes.
It's a good start. It's a good start that they're including this in the first place.
Yeah. Well, and just to quickly wrap up on new owners, what I like what they're doing is they're way more active on social media. So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you look at just the testing coverage this year, I mean, you really didn't see that in other years. It was just sort of kind of hush-hush.
They've got the 360 cams on the cars, which are nice.
The POV cameras on the visor,
nice.
And they're posting all the times. They're putting like the best of team radio.
Yeah, new video every day. Almost,
yeah, all this type of stuff.
Great.
So that's positive because we sort of, I love to see those, team radio stuff after a race and highlights or whatever, and we didn't really get that under Mr. Burney.
Do you think that they'll include the F1 drivers meeting like they did last year in Monaco and they did a couple other tracks? Do you think they do that again this year? Because I know the drivers were a little skeptical. I mean, obviously, it's not the whole drivers meeting. The whole drivers meeting is in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
it's cut down and edited so that the you see some of the fun things. You see some of the maybe a question or two.
Yeah,
but most of the insider stuff they keep obviously secretive because it's a drivers meeting.
Yeah,
for a public. So, but I like the 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it was just to see.
I thought it was awesome. I mean, when they did it in Monaco, they didn't do it again for like a couple of races. So I thought it was like, oh, it's not gonna. But then they had some really interesting ones. I can't remember which one it was.
The one where Perez and
Well, that one too, when like Grosjean just asked him like,
It's
yeah, I think it was Sergio who cut the corner.
yeah, completely threw Perez out of the bus. And
Yeah.
Sergio just kind of like sat there like.
Oh, I remember which one it was. It was after the U.S. Grand Prix, after the corner cutting dilemma, and Lewis was like, he's like, yeah, we checked the GPS and Sebastian cut the corner, like here, whatever, and Vettel was just like, this fucking guy, like. You know what I mean? So you get some of those funny moments that I'm glad that they didn't cut out. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is if they're gonna do it after every race, but I mean,
I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
I thought that was a great addition because you kind of got to see some stuff that you don't really ever get to see. So that was fun.
Gorilla Grid's always fun to do as well.
Gorilla Grid is really fun.
That's
yeah,
a good one.
Yeah, especially you get like Red Bull, or even Ferrari with Kimi. It was really entertaining. So, and I like that because you can do it throughout the whole season. So it's not
you
like
film it all. You do every team in one day,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and that's 10 weeks of 10 races worth of content.
Yeah, and then you get to stay up to date throughout the whole season. So
I think they need to get better Secret Santa presents though. I don't know if you saw the Secret Santa.
yeah,
video.
that was. I don't think they personally bought it, but
They must have.
I don't know. Some of them were kind of funny.
They were
but
pretty. There were some that were terrible. Though.
Yeah, it was. So
I was expecting like all of them to get each other like $500 shoes. And
oh
stuff like
no,
that, and they got
I think Lewis was pretty cheap to be
yeah,
honest.
they
with
all
you.
got like a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Stroll got a banana or something. A monkey with a banana.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it for the new F1 owners. So the next thing that we can talk about is now that testing is done, we can look at the driver lineup.
Yeah.
We can take a look at each team, and there's not too many changes in terms of drivers for this year, but we can sort of take a look at each team and each driver and sort of go through, the balance between the teammates, obviously championship favorites, etc. along those lines. So we can start off with, see if we can get this loaded up here. We can start off with the defending champions, actually the four-time champions, Mercedes. So the same driver lineup as last year, of course. So Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. And so what do you think about this driver pairing? How do you think, how would you rate Valtteri's first year with Mercedes going back to 2017?
Well, I thought it was. I should have done it. Sorry, I should have done it in the Ferrari one. But I was really impressed with Valtteri. Obviously, it takes a few races to start getting into the groove with a new team. But I think Valtteri will finish third in drivers' standings this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll have a really good shot. And he'll be in it right to the end. He was very impressive. He's very calm and collected. Very smart race car driver. Obviously, Lewis will be in the top two. Everyone's expecting that as well. But I like the driver lineup. I think it's one of the strongest Mercedes will have. But going to the future, they're going to have to start getting a little younger. I think Hamilton might move on to bigger, better things down the line too. I mean, who knows? I mean, we've seen him with Mercedes for a while, but that always changes. You never know if he could move or not.
Yeah, I mean, people were surprised when he made the move from McLaren. So. You're definitely right. But I mean, he is getting older, so that's another thing. But yeah, I think Lewis is. There was a couple of laps in testing where you're like, okay, he's still on top of it. So I think that he's going to be obviously fighting for the championship.
Oh, for sure.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Come time for the final races of the year. I think that Valtteri is a perfect teammate for him. A guy that can be competitive, but it's not going to like get on his nerves like Rosberg did.
Yeah.
So there's not that sort of headbutting. You really saw it last year. The work as a team was incredible, and they
Lewis
complemented each other.
Too.
Way happier. Yeah. I mean, you saw it too. It was just unbelievable the stark contrast between the last year and then the last couple years with
Rosberg. You don't have your
Rosberg
teammate running into you.
Yeah, exactly. And
on both ends.
Both ends, different weekends, whatever
Great
the
for
case
us,
was.
Great drama for us.
Yeah, but for the team, it was just a nightmare. So I think you sort of get a status quo from Valtteri, but he did struggle at certain parts of the season in terms of understanding his car. You saw Lewis was sort of on it almost all the time, but then you really saw Bottas sometimes drop behind the Red Bulls, sometimes even behind the Force Indias. So I think that having an off season with Mercedes, being able to sort of now be familiar with the team, with all the technical directors, with everybody inside the team, I think he'll actually be a little bit more competitive this year. I think right around there, he might finish, in the top three of the driver's standings. But yeah, I think that he probably middle of the season toward the end of the season is going to start to play that teammate role of trying to hold up the Ferraris or the Red Bulls if they're there. But I really like this driver lineup. I think it's just a really good kind of balance between both personalities.
I think so too, and I think the same goes with Ferrari as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, we can go to Ferrari next.
I mean, that's a team that obviously they've had the Vettel and Raikkonen now. I think this is their third season together, if I'm right, maybe fourth.
I believe
I don't know.
Vettel came over in 2015, so yeah, they're
fourth,
yeah.
15, 16,
Gotta
17,
think about that
18. But I mean, we'll see if this is Raikkonen's last year or not. I mean, who knows? But again, you have two world-class world champions as your drivers. It's can you really get any better than that? And
yeah,
they work great together as well.
Yeah, and they're the only ones, right? They're the only ones that have two world champions on the same team. So I think we often forget that Kimi is a world champion.
2007.
2007, yeah.
That surprise one in Brazil.
Yeah, it was the one.
Hamilton didn't finish. He finished 7th, I think.
Yeah.
And Raikkonen won because he finished first or second. I forget. And
well, he messed. Hamilton had that issue in China where he parked his then McLaren when he was going into the pits.
That's right. Yeah.
In that
Brazil race, he went off track. He went into the gravel.
Oh, okay.
And came back out, and that's why he finished 7th. Otherwise, it was all his. It was his to lose, and
in his rookie season. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting seeing two world champions in 1 year, and I think we talked about this last week, sort of seeing Raikkonen challenge a little bit more for race wins. I mean, we'd love to see him win another race, and
he needs to win one this year. He needs to. Vettel needs to calm down for a race and let Raikkonen, especially if it's like early on, like when it's not in the title picture. Like if Raikkonen can win like a Canada or Baku or I don't know what the driver or what everything gets shifted around every year with the race lineups.
Yeah,
Australia. I don't know. Who knows? Who's up next? Force India? Red Bull. No, Red Bull would be next.
Yeah, and just sort of the last thoughts on Ferrari. If we don't really know what's going to happen in terms of Mercedes or Red Bull, but we could see Ferrari, maybe go back to the Schumacher Barrichello days and just run away with it, which I don't think will happen. But if we're going to get a 3-team fight, we might see some interesting scenarios with teammates sort of seeing helping each other out and playing that role. So the next team up that we have is Red Bull Racing.
Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing.
Aston Martin, Red Bull Racing. That's right.
Change it up. And
probably one of the most fan-friendly driver lineups, Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen.
They're so much fun. And I think you see Ricciardo in red soon.
I really hope so.
In Ferrari red. And I think you see Verstappen in Mercedes white, I guess it would be.
Gray. Yeah, gray-white.
White. These are two drivers that I think, if Red Bull don't have another great season, if they're not contending, like you see them move.
Yeah.
And I think this is a huge year for Red Bull. I think they have to have a great year. Otherwise, these two are going to get frustrated. Yeah, they love working together, great teammates, but something needs to change at Red Bull, and they have a lot of young drivers coming up. I think that you're going to see these guys wanting to move on to bigger teams.
Yeah, and the key, I think, here for Red Bull is they have to get off to a good start. Last couple years, Ricciardo beached his car last year in Australia, and then the reliability that Verstappen had pretty much throughout the whole first half of the season.
Yeah.
So they need to get off to a much quicker start because they can win races, and the skill of these two guys, it's really unquestionable. I mean, Verstappen, youngest Grand Prix winner in the history of the sport. Ricciardo, probably the best overtaker that we have on the grid right now.
That's debatable between him and Max still.
Debatable, very debatable. I think I would probably say that Ricciardo is the best late breaker. I think he's even better than Hamilton.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to go out on the limb and say that.
Which I'm not sure how that works, but I
don't know. But
your brakes could only do... Anyways.
And he's a guy that doesn't lock up his brakes too often. No. When you remember that pass he had in Baku last year, I mean, it was like last second that he did that, and no lockup, nice and steady, stable throughout the corner. So I really like this driver pairing. What I want to see is, let's say Red Bull is competitive. Let's say they're up there challenging for the championship with sort of both drivers. Will that friendliness go away? I mean, I don't think that you can be that sort of friendly if you're both competing for a championship.
I don't think they can both get that many points and compete with the championship if... I think there'd only be one of them. That would be close to one of them.
Yeah.
To either Vettel or Hamilton. I think
Yeah.
there's only going to be one. I don't think you see them both up there, third and fourth, and all 4 drivers are within 20 points of each other.
Yeah.
I don't think you see that.
Would you imagine, though?
That would be it'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love it, but
Right.
I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, because I think the last few years they really haven't been competing, so that's why you're sort of seeing this sort of fun relationship between them. But I think that sort of would all change if it was a bit more serious. But Red Bull does a really good job in developing their new drivers, and we see Carlos Sainz. Obviously, he's with Renault, but he's still under contract with Red Bull. Yeah. So if, like you said, Ricciardo shifts to Ferrari, we could put Sainz in there. They've got a litany of drivers in the Red Bull Academy that they could bring up as well. Obviously Toro Rosso, they have options there. So I think Red Bull is one of those teams that sort of never runs out of who we're going to replace.
Also, they sponsor everyone, Red Bull.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, they do a really good job with their marketing. But Ricciardo said that he's probably going to try and open contract talks right around April. So he's going to, wait. I think that's smart. You kind of wait out to see how the season goes. And if, they're having reliability issues, I think it's going to be time to look elsewhere for him.
I think so, too.
And just quickly on Red Bull, too, what do you think would happen if they switch to Honda? Because the partnership with Renault is sort of up in the air right now. They're not sure if they're going to renew.
Well, I think Ricciardo would leave right away.
Yeah.
What's the point? I mean, we'll see how it goes with Toro Rosso this year. Who knows? Maybe Toro Rosso finished like 5th in constructors.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Then you got a dilemma because you look at that and you say, okay, maybe we can figure it out with Honda. But, I think that's all factors into his decision in terms of where he's going to go.
And if that happens, I think that's when you start seeing maybe Aston Martin will get their own team.
Yeah.
And try to buy into F1.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect time for Aston Martin to do it.
Yep. I would like to see them in there too. And
as their own separate identity.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Monster, just to piss off the Red Bull guys.
Yeah. They might not do that, but
Red Bull, Monster should get a team in. They have so much money too.
Yeah. They sponsor Hamilton. Yeah, that's right.
Well, they sponsor Mercedes.
A lot of people, yeah.
But no, that'd be another team that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I mean, many
liveries that you could get out of that.
Many teams they're expecting a 3-way fight for this season. So remains to be seen if we're gonna get that.
And if this next team can get along, they should be 4th. But I believe it's Force India.
If they can get along.
If they can get along, Sergio and Esteban, because we saw last year they almost had a Mercedes Rosberg Hamilton
couple
situation.
Times, yeah.
Especially later on in the season. I mean, I think that you have to watch out for early on the relationship between these guys to see, because I think, you could see either Perez or Ocon moving up. I believe Ocon's a Mercedes driver.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not 100% sure either, but you could see these guys moving on, especially if things aren't going well team chemistry wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and Force India, I think, is a team that, also on Force India, they might have a name change before the start of the season because of their sponsor, I believe, which is BWT. I think it's like a water company, something like that. But they do want to sort of change the name because of the sponsor whole thing, which I hope they don't. Because
I like
India is the identity of the team, and having Vijay Mahila, I'm messing up his last name, as the team owner. If he's going to stay on, then I would just think that keeping the name Force India would just make sense.
Well, it brings another demographic, right? Maybe they can get a race in India at one point.
Yeah, which they did have for, I think, maybe 2 seasons. They had in New Delhi, which is a decent track, and then
bring it back. Who knows? That'd be great for Force India, but and that's a huge market to break into. People living there.
Huge, exactly, huge population. So I really like this driver lineup as well. I think that Perez was sort of thrown into McLaren a bit too early. He wasn't mature enough yet, and he sort of couldn't handle that. But he's a lot more mature now, and you started to see it last year too. And I think they're both capable of some podium finishes as long as their car can support their driving ability. But we'll see sort of where they end up. But yeah, I think that their competitiveness and the sort of on-track incidents probably won't stop next year, especially if they're competitive.
No, not at all. These are 2 competitive guys, 2 very fast race car drivers. Esteban, I think, has the highest ceiling in terms of potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can be a world champion in the future.
Okay, yeah.
Sergio, I don't think he can be a world champion in the future.
Okay, fair enough.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But, I think Esteban has a higher ceiling there.
Yeah, and Ocon, I believe, he had the record for the most race finishes in a row.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, until
Brazil last year.
Brazil.
Yeah, and it was I believe it was Kevin Magnussen again that knocked him off. Or I know it was a Haas.
Probably Magnussen then.
Probably Magnussen.
He's the new Maldonado.
Yeah,
who might be making a return. Who knows?
And we are going to mention Maldonado a little bit later on when we talk about one specific team, but that I think is a wrap for Force India.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we've
so.
covered that.
Other than their amazing livery, which just looks fantastic.
Looks very good, very good.
But I did like the old black and silver. And
so the connection to Pastor Maldonado is with this new team, Williams. If you look at, let's see where it is. Okay, so it's not on here, but do you know where their last win came at?
I don't. I know
So
it's Pastor, but
it was
I don't know
Pastor,
where.
yeah, in Barcelona. So I believe it was in 2012. It was that crazy season when there was like 7 different winners and 7 races. But their last win came with Maldonado. So we have Williams here, and I believe probably one of the youngest driver lineups that we have on the grid.
Which has a lot of potential for this team to grow in the future. But I don't think this is going to be a big year for Lance and Sergey to learn, and who knows how long we see Sergey there. If Sergey's not performing right, do we see Robert Kubica come in?
What about the other way around too? If Stroll is really struggling and not making progression,
I don't think they would get rid of Stroll because he had the full season last year.
Okay,
I think that's a young driver that they don't want to lose.
Yeah,
I don't think they don't want him to go to a different team.
Yeah, I think just looking at in terms of skill level, it's sort of unknown with what Sergey can do because we haven't really seen him in a car too often. But this is sort of the year where Lance is going to have to break out of his rookie shell and start to show some more consistent results. I think qualifying is a huge area of concern for him that he's going to need to address this season. And I've heard that that's sort of where he's sort of looking to get better. So just that, one lap qualifying that he can really just hit his marks and get into Q2, get into Q3. Because, so many times that, both him and Felipe would be out in Q1.
Or you'd either have Felipe 5/10 ahead of him. And you're wondering, how does this... obviously, experience plays a huge factor. And Lance being his rookie year last year, a tough transition from F3. But I think he's now the number 1 driver on this team. It's now his team to grow and build, and I think you can really see him shape the future of Williams if he stays with the team and if Williams keeps him, to see where this team can go in years to come, because I think it's going to be it's going to be a time where they're going to have to regroup, redevelop, and rebuild their organization. Yeah,
I think they're probably going to get close to that, and that might be this year. I think if what testing sort of shows us, if they're sort of similar to like that during the season, I think at the end of the season they're going to need to sort of just really do a complete rebuild and see, reassess where they are, because this is a team that has 9 world championships, right? One of the best teams on the grid in terms of history and the drivers that they used to have. So to see them sort of at the back of the grid is quite a surprise. A lot of these teams like a Ferrari, who've been in almost as long as Williams, have been in there longer. They're sort of always at the front of the grid, somehow. Whether it's not for competing for a championship, at least they're podiums and stuff. But Williams, the last few years especially, just at the back of the grid. So
just the 1 podium last year in Baku.
Yes, that's right.
With Lance,
that's right. So really, really a lot of pressure, I think, on these two. But I think the fact that you have Kubica sort of hanging in the background is a positive, just in case you need to maybe sub in with Sergey. So I think that's a welcome sight for them.
For sure. Next team, I'm going to take a guess and say it's Renault. Nailed it.
You're right again.
So Renault, and this will be Castrol Edge with a big sponsorship there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting just when you're looking on the drivers, like Sainz has that RCI sponsorship, if you see on that left-hand side
Bank
of him.
And services.
Yeah. So, and then Nico doesn't have
unless
it. Unless
it's a picture from last year for Nico.
Might be,
which
yeah.
I don't know. It could be.
Well, look at the hair on Nico, too. Looks great.
Great hair. Hey, that's a driver you would have on a poster.
Yeah.
With that hair. But this is another driver lineup that I really like. Carlos Sainz, young up-and-coming guy. Nico Hülkenberg, more of a veteran guy now in terms of where you look at the lineup this year. But I think Hülkenberg can be a guy that will bring this Renault team, and they look like they can really challenge this year. I expect them to get 1 or 2 podiums this year.
I really hope so, and I hope one of those podiums goes to Hulkenberg because he still doesn't have
He doesn't
one.
have one.
And he's been trying hard, man.
Yeah.
He's been trying real hard. But yeah, I think this is kind of one of those question mark teams where I look at them and I say I'm not really sure where they're going to end up. But I think I love Sainz. I think Sainz is a really good driver. I think he's got the potential to move up into Red Bull. Maybe at the end of this season, who really knows?
Yeah.
But I think he has a pretty bright future. And then Hulkenberg too, he just needs to really step up a little bit more, trying to get on that podium, trying to bring in those consistent results. But I think if Renault can bring their package together, they could sort of lead the mid-pack teams, in the early couple of races.
I think so too, and I think that they can challenge Force India for that fourth spot on the grid, especially with the what controversy will happen this year. It's imminent. I think that's what I'm looking for. Imminent. Anyways, it's imminent that it will happen for Force India, that they'll have some sort of driver controversy. So I think Renault can kind of squeak in there and be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, and now Sainz is going to get a full season with the team again. Coming halfway through last year was a bit weird, but definitely a big upgrade from Jolyon Palmer to him.
Poor Jolyon.
Yeah, well,
I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah. One of those guys that just sort of
isn't he on Sky Sports this year?
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. He's British, so it works. Probably. I guess that's what they look for. But who knows if we're ever going to see him back?
Yeah, who knows? I think he is staying in F1 doing some sort of thing.
Yeah, well, sort of same as Verline, but well, I don't know. But I mean, it's a new season, so things for Renault, I think, could be looking up. So,
I think so too. It'll be nice to see what their pace is going to be like in Australia.
Yeah, and nice to see them too. They'll get the French Grand Prix back, so they have a home Grand Prix, which is nice.
Well, technically no, because their base is in Enstone.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're not really.
No, but
it's like their name, and that's pretty much about it.
Yeah.
As with most teams, I think Ferrari is probably really the only team that's just solely based out of Italy. They might do some other things probably in the UK as well, though.
They must. I'm not sure what other teams. Well, obviously Haas is based in
the States. Yeah. Like Mercedes is mainly based in the UK.
Yeah.
I think Force India has a lot of stuff in the UK as well.
Red Bull, I'm not sure. I think
Red Bull is definitely UK. Yeah.
I mean, I know their team's Austrian, but
yeah. Well, they're in Milton Keynes, I believe.
Oh yeah, Milton Keynes. There's nothing over there.
Yeah, just like headquarters and
a
wind tunnel, maybe
a third division football team.
Yeah. So most of these teams are doing most of their work actually in the UK. So we'll see where Renault ends up for this season.
Haas up next, I'm guessing. Oh, Toro Rosso.
Got it wrong. So the second Italian team here.
Oh, there's a team in Italy.
Yeah.
We didn't include on that one. But
you sometimes forget that, right?
You do.
It's like, this is an Italian team.
Gasly and Hartley, and Hartley, an older guy, which you don't think of, but really making the change from the World Endurance Championship, now going towards F1. And then Pierre Gasly, who I think the lineup we'll see in the future is Sainz and Gasly as the Red Bull drivers. A team where it'll be interesting to see. Of course, the big thing is that Honda-powered engine and where they're going to go with that and what they can achieve out of the Honda-Toro Rosso relationship and Red Bull. And I'd say they're going to be a team to watch. Not in terms of performance and how high they'll finish, but the consistency and the reliability of their car.
Yeah. I think, Toro Rosso is almost going to be like a guinea pig for Red Bull just to see,
100%.
Should we touch the Honda engine at the end of this year? So, yeah, that to me is like the biggest concern is, are they going to run into the same engine issues as McLaren did in the last couple of years? Because then obviously that's going to limit what Gasly and Hartley can do.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Gasly. Came in last year, had some decent showings here and there. But I want to see him over sort of a couple races length of time to see where he can where he can compete, and then obviously with that engine too, what's going to happen? Are they going to have enough power to kind of challenge the mid team or can they finish higher than McLaren? Who really knows?
Yeah,
but obviously their only win coming in at Monza, courtesy of Vettel, back in 08. So it's been a while since they've sort of tasted a good result. They had P4 last year with Sainz in Singapore. So I think that they've shown that they can have some good races. But it's all about if they can bring that whole package together. And of course, the engine is a huge question mark for this year.
Yep, that'll be a lot of fun to watch, I think. And see where Toro Rosso will go. It's of course drivers of the future that always line up for Toro Rosso. So
Yeah. So they do a good job with the feeder program there and testing them out and then sending them to Red Bull or just keeping them there. So, but I mean, I would like to see them actually get a couple podiums because they've always just been that team where it's just like, we're the junior Red Bull team and that's pretty much about it. But it'd be nice if they can sort of step out of that a little bit.
Or finish above a Red Bull for a race or two.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
for fun.
Or maybe have both of them on the podium. I don't know.
Oh,
But,
that's a stretch.
We're getting a bit too crazy there.
Well, who's going to win that race? Sauber or what? Or
Yeah.
Who knows? Up next, is it Haas now? I would think so.
I think you're going to be right about this one. Yeah.
So
Haas.
Grosjean and the guy no one likes on the grid, Kevin Magnussen.
And we talked about it at the beginning of the show that they showed some good pace in testing and a lot of improvements from 2017. But, where do you see, Magnussen, he's got to sort of reel himself in this year. But do you like this lineup? Do you like sort of the mixture? Or is Haas going to have to make a change maybe at the end of the year?
It depends how much Grosjean complains. Because at one point he was wearing his team out. He was going, Roman, just shut up.
Was that in the States? Yeah, I remember that.
Shut up for a second.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a little more tweaking in terms of how they're going to have their mentality, their driver mentality. But saying that, I do like them as race car drivers. Magnussen a little more aggressive, but we need a little villain in F1. There's no villains in F1, so Magnussen could be that guy.
Yeah.
Romain Grosjean, veteran, knows how to race well, has a good head on his shoulders for the most part, and I think it really can make a difference. So it'd be nice to see Haas get a podium this year. I'm sure that's what they're gunning for eventually. I'm looking for them to be not a feeder team anymore, not a team that relies on other teams' parts to put an F1 car together. I want to see their development start and being a little different from what they were in the past few years.
Yeah. And Grosjean, he's proven that he can be a good driver when he was with Lotus a couple years ago. He had a couple podium finishes, high points finishes, which is good. But they really had struggled last year, in terms of just competing with pace, and the car was just unstable at certain tracks. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, are they going to be a team that sort of relies on other, Ferrari for the engine? Are they going to get some of those upgrades? Who knows? But, for like we mentioned before with kind of trying to get Formula One into the States market, I mean, this would help.
This would help, but what I would expect out of an American team is to get a
money?
Ford, a Ford engine or a Chevrolet engine, one of those big manufacturers to
bring back the Ford engines,
to try and do something different. I mean, like for our engine, it's going to be reliable, and I'm sure it would take years for Ford and Chevrolet to figure out an engine, but it's American. What Americans do best is made in America. America. So that's what I would expect to see out of the future. But I mean, who knows? Who knows what Haas is going to do?
Yeah.
If they want to stay competitive, they want to be a competitive F1 team. So they've done a lot over the past 3 years, or 2 years, I guess, that they've been in F1. Now it's really starting to see, okay, where are we going to go from here?
Yeah, highest race finish was 5th, and I believe that was in their inaugural year.
Grosjean in Australia.
Yeah, since then,
first race of the season.
It's sort of
history.
Yeah, they started off really high, and then now they sort of dipped down low. But some rumors that they were maybe looking for an American driver, but I don't think there's
any names really that come to mind.
I believe Alexander Rossi stepped in a couple years ago to drive.
He's been playing fantastic, driving fantastic in IndyCar.
Yeah, Indy 500 champion. So I don't know. I don't think it was specifically him, but they were saying, American team, let's get an American driver. But I don't think there's any legitimacy toward that rumor. So that's it for Haas. So we got just a couple more teams left, and the next one is McLaren. So we're going to be talking a lot about McLaren this year, and I'm really, really excited to see this first race to see where,
engine failures, both of them.
Yeah.
Toro Rosso goes on to go 4th and 5th.
Yeah, exactly. Top 10. Just quickly speaking about the drivers, obviously Fernando, we know what he can do. I think it's going to be a question later on in the season. Will we see any fatigue with him with all the racing that he's going to be doing in the WEC? I think he's very professional, so we shouldn't really be seeing any issues in terms of lack of focus or fatigue. But if they start to sort of finish at the back of the grid, if they have to replace a lot of engines, is he going to start to lose motivation? is he going to put more effort into his WEC stuff?
Or
because
just switch teams.
Yeah, or just say, you know what, man, like I'm done with this, and just focus on WEC, where he's going to be more competitive because it's more even there. But obviously, in terms of his skill, there's no question there. I think that's what every fan wants to see, is a competitive McLaren car driven by Fernando Alonso.
I think everyone wants to see Alonso do well because he is still one of the best drivers in the world. And
Yeah.
you want to see one of the best drivers in the world drive well and have a car that will be reliable.
Just reliable, exactly.
Of course, we'll see how they do with Renault. Proven performance in Renault now, and that partnership coming to an end this year with Honda. But I think Fernando, of course, he's a world-class driver, world champion, multiple-time world champion, and I think he can be at least it would be amazing for him to get a podium this year.
Yeah, I hope that McLaren hasn't compromised all the good things that they had on their car, minus the Honda engine.
Right.
Their chassis seem to be very good. Their aerodynamics seem to be pretty on point. So I'm hoping that they didn't sort of change something around that maybe threw off the balance of the car, because in some circuits and some corners, the McLaren looked like one of the best cars last year.
Yeah.
But then obviously once you get into that straight, it's, they just had nothing left there in terms of power. So I hope that they didn't sort of compromise everything there, and that the early testing struggles are just sort of, gone by the first couple of races.
Yeah.
And then we have, obviously, Stoffel Van Dorn, who's back with him. And I think, again, this is one of those driver lineups that's a really good pairing. Van Dorn, who was a bit quiet sort of in his rookie season, and then sort of came out of his shell early on last season and put in some really, really good drives. So if this car is competitive, I think Van Dorn is a really consistent top 10 finisher. And, I think that he's a pretty talented driver.
He is a very talented driver. I agree. And maybe this will be his breakout year. I don't know. He's never really been able to do that because of the engine he's had. He's been kind of shuffled to the back. So it would be nice to see Stoffel do something well, do something that will kind of turn heads and say, okay, this is a team that can work now and bring it back to the future and have the results like they used to have back in the day.
And they said that they were aiming to, compete for podiums, and we hope so, but we still sort of classify them for now as that mid-pack team. But, just for Fernando's sake, man, we hope that he can just be back at the top, just because you forget just how good he is and just where he is at the back of the grid.
Yeah.
No power, not even close to being competitive. It's just a real shame of what we've seen the last couple seasons. So
yeah, absolutely.
I hope that he won't regret the decision to stay with McLaren.
And then the last and final team on the grid this season that I think can turn a lot of heads this year if they do well is Sauber/Alfa Romeo. Charles Leclerc and Marcus Ericsson. Leclerc not really having the greatest testing this testing session.
Right.
But saying that, I think that if they have everything fall into place, start building towards the future again, a team that's not going to turn the corner right away, but if they can start learning to have a different area of expertise in their Sauber team and grow towards the future, they can make a difference, not this year, but in years to come. Marcus Ericsson, I think, is a driver that can do things, can be a future for Sauber. And who knows what Charles Leclerc yet.
Yeah, and Leclerc is actually, at first I thought he was French, but he's from Monaco.
He stole my number. Now on F1 games, they can't be number 16.
Can't be number 16? Yeah.
I'm annoyed.
So he'll be one of the first, I forget how they call it. I think they call it like Monegasque. This is like the short form for,
I don't know,
for a resident from Monaco, but he's going to be one of the first Monaco drivers in quite some time. And then, looking at Marcus Ericsson, it was funny because last year he kind of got outperformed for most of the season by Wehrlein, out-qualified, outraced a couple times too, but then obviously Sauber made the decision to stick with Ericsson.
Well, that's not Sauber's decision. That's
right.
Ferrari's
Ferrari's decision there. So, but I think that, he is going to need to perform, or else they're just going to go to somebody else. But I think that I completely agree that they might be the surprise team this year, where we're not going to see them at the very back of the grid. Maybe not competing in terms of points, but kind of getting close to there.
I think we're getting to one of those years where the mid-pack's going to be really shuffled up all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to see different teams at different points at every single race. And that's exciting because it adds a battle at a certain point. And we'll see who. I don't know who's going to be the worst team. I don't know.
It's tough to call this year.
There's
yeah,
no guarantee of who's going to be the backmarkers this year. I mean, us, but
us. Yeah, always.
But I mean, who knows? It'll be interesting to see that once the first races get in, then we'll get a better perspective on where everything will fall.
Yeah. At this point, it's just pure speculation. But I would say that I don't think Sauber will be at the very bottom. So we'll see what they can do. Alfa Romeo's a new partnership too. So hopefully they can figure that out quickly. When a new partner comes on with the team, it's always interesting to see how quickly they can figure things out and sort of adapt to the changing world of Formula One. So things are looking up, I think, though, for Sauber.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them do well again. A team that's always had a decent amount of history, right? They've been around for a while now and have won one race in there. I don't know when that race was.
Yeah, I looked at that and I'm like, when was that again?
Hold on, keep talking. I'll look
maybe you look that up there on Google. So that's it for our driver previews there. So we'll be following all the drivers this season, and obviously any contract rumors or changes that goes on. But that is just a quick summary of all the drivers. So the next thing that I wanted to touch on was just a couple of things that we were seeing in testing.
Oh, how did we not know this? This is embarrassing.
Oh, who was it?
It was in Canada. It was Robert Kubica.
Oh, that's right. That was BMW Sauber, right?
I don't know why we didn't think of that.
Okay, you see, that's tricky though, because that's in Grill the Grid. That's the question that got Kimi Räikkönen too, of who Vettel tested with first, and he's just said BMW, but I'm pretty sure it was BMW Sauber.
It was BMW
because
Sauber.
They had BMW Williams as well back with Montoya, and then they changed to like BMW Sauber. So
embarrassing by us though.
That's all right. That's a trick question, so we'll give it there. So the next thing that we're going to touch on, one of the last things, is some of the interesting aerodynamic tools and sort of parts that we've seen used through testing. And, with the ever complicated, regulations and aerodynamics and all this type of stuff that comes with Formula One, I think this was something that was really interesting. So we'll start off first with, which was the flow visualization paint. I can't even say it.
It's FlowViz.
FlowViz. There we go. That's the shortened form. So
it's the green paint that they put on to see where the airflow is going. Which is very cool.
So you've seen that on Sauber was using it. You saw that
every team
on
uses
the Toro Rosso. Yeah. And basically, like you said, so what it does is they just throw the paint on there, and before it drives, the cars are running around the circuit.
They do what, like 2 laps? It's gonna dry quick.
It's something short, and then where the paint goes is where they can tell where the air flows, and then they comparing that to their wind tunnel testings and all the R&D stuff to make sure that it's sort of on point of where the simulations are landing.
Which is a technology that's been around for a little bit now, but is a very useful kind of simple technique. Just throw paint on a car. Who would have thought? But it's like wind tunnel, right? It's a live wind tunnel. That's where you see where this airflow is going in certain parts of the car, and a lot of teams use it. Well, every team uses it, and it's a big help to what they do. And the other thing they use is the aero rakes.
Yeah, and just the last thing too on the FlowViz. One of the reasons why you don't see it too often is obviously every team can read it. Yeah. So you can see where the airflow is for each team. So obviously you didn't see like Ferrari using it, Mercedes. You saw sort of the backmarker teams, Sauber, Toro Rosso using it. So they don't want to give away sort of too much in there, if you were wondering why they don't use it too often. And so so the aero rakes.
But every team uses the aero rakes, which are very well known now. You can see it on the McLaren here, but basically is every little point, there's sensors at every little point. The judges here you go.
So keel probe sensors, that's what they're called.
This video will tell you, but they measure the wind speed. I'm just gonna explain what's in this video because I've seen the video.
Yeah, people at home can see the video as well. Formula One did a good job. Again, going back to the new owners, this is the type of video.
They did one of these last year too.
Yeah.
But this one's a little more in depth where if you're really getting new to F1, you understand what this is.
Yeah. So you can fit them to obviously the front tires, and then also the rear wing, the rear tires, which is going to measure the air going over the back of the car. And I'm not 100% sure how they attach it, But you've seen the ones of, they have the full ones that go across the full suspension, and then we saw on the Sauber there just one that comes off of the back end.
Yeah, there's small ones that just go to the back of the diffuser,
Yeah.
and then there's massive ones that try to get as much airflow as you can in the side pod and see where the air is going toward the side pod.
Yeah.
But again, I think a lot of them, you're seeing a lot of it on the rear wing because of that halo, and see where that halo is sending the air toward the back, the rear wing.
And obviously no shark fin or T-wing this year,
Yeah.
so that changes a little bit in terms of the airflow as well. And then, of course, the halo is a huge one. But this is something that, you see the teams use actually maybe a couple times throughout the year, and obviously in testing as well. So, it's something that was quite confusing when you see it at first, and you're like, what is this for? But yeah, it's just it's all about just comparing the data with the simulation with wind tunnel testing and stuff like that. So it's a pretty little neat tool that they use. I found that was pretty interesting.
I wonder how much those aero wings would cost.
Yeah,
like maybe just the sensors.
Yeah, I think the sensors are what's I don't know what they're made of. It's some aluminum or steel, but interesting too of how much would they weigh. You know what I mean? Because you're obviously adding.
They would be light, no?
They would probably have to be. They're not too heavy, because then you're going to affect too much of the car.
Yeah.
And then you're probably not going to get too much of an accurate read on aero because your car is heavier. But yeah, I think it's the sensors of what would cost probably more amount of money. So yeah, who knows? But one thing that they do have is money. So
yeah,
their problem, not ours.
Yeah, I can't afford an aero rake.
Yeah.
Aero rake. I can't afford a mirror on an F1 car. Those things cost a lot too.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. And one of the last things too, the news of the week was coming once again out of the Sauber Alfa Romeo team, and it was Tatiana Calderon is going to be the new test driver, and the first female test driver we've had in quite a while. And it looks like she will be. I believe I read the stat. She might end up being the first woman in 42 years to drive an actual Formula One car,
which is fantastic. I mean, I don't know much about her. I don't know what she's raced in the past, but ultimately it needs to be down to who's the best driver.
Yeah.
And if she can get the data for you, be a test driver, and go out and do some practice sessions and get the right data, then that's perfect for Sauber, and it's great for the F1 world as well.
Yeah, and the timing was interesting because
Danica
I don't know.
I don't know if that's where you're going with that, but Danica Patrick is retiring this year. She's doing her Danica double. She did the Daytona 500.
Daytona, yeah.
Crashed out, which is typical Danica. And we'll be doing. She took a hard hit too. She takes the hardest hits out of anyone. I don't understand. It's just crazy the hits she takes. And then the Indy 500, which she'll be doing as well. And she got to get GoDaddy to sponsor them, just like the old time. So one last race for Danica in the Indy 500, but she's really been one of the females that have grown as a race car driver to have these young women come up and want to be just like Danica Patrick. I mean, I'm not 100% sure how old.
I think she's in her high 30s.
Yeah, so she's
like that. Yeah.
So she can be someone as well for girls growing up to be. I can be exactly like her and be an F1 driver if I want to.
Yeah, I think it's really important what you said of it just comes down to who the best driver is.
Yeah.
And you look at that grid and it's really hard to compete. What I was mentioning before was, I don't know if you heard the comments made from Carmen Jorda, who is also a female driver, and I think she has been involved with Lotus.
She was the Williams reserve driver.
Williams, okay.
But not test driver.
Okay, yeah. And she made some comments that women should aim for more like Formula E or lower categories because it's less so physical. So it'd be easier for them because they have a physical disadvantage, which I think that there's some truth to that. Obviously for the men, obviously physically it's a lot easier for them to deal with the higher G-forces that these cars bring and the higher speeds. But somebody said also that she never really actually tested these cars and stuff like that, so she's not too familiar with it. But
I couldn't drive one because I'm not strong enough. But
yeah,
I mean, I want to be, but my neck would go in the first 2 laps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a matter of how you train, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why I'm really interested to see Calderon kind of get in the car and see what her times are in relative comparison to, not only her teammates, but also the rest of the grid. Yeah. Because we really haven't seen, a woman in Formula One really, ever. So it's hard to sort of judge and compare where they would rank because we just really haven't seen it. So if they can get her out in a couple of free practice sessions,
which they will. I'm sure they'll get her out in Australia. They've got to at this point.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll do it that early because
with all the hype going around, I think it'd be perfect time just to debut her in Australia.
Maybe, yeah. I would almost say that they'll wait a little bit longer just to see if they can get Leclerc in the car a bit more. But
maybe
they might bring her out early as Australia as well.
Do an FP1 practice, do 20 laps or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
do something just to have that hype around her and to have that good story mentality.
Yeah, and it's obviously you never know what can happen with a driver, so she has a really good opportunity maybe to even step in for a few races if anything happens to Ericsson or Leclerc. So another interesting development that we can follow. And one of the final things that I wanted to show you this video. So
here we go.
I came across this video just searching through YouTube, and it's an old video. I think it's from '86. So it's Jackie Stewart. He's breaking down one of the BMW turbo cars back in those days. And this is a really interesting video, and people at home will be able to see the title of this, and you guys can check out the full video in itself. But one of the more interesting things that I wanted to just point out is sort of the simplicity.
The largest one of all, of course, is the rev counter. Just as you in your road cars have to address the speedometer to stay within the limits of the law, the limits of the law for this engine is the speed of the engine. It would go up to about 11,000 revs, for example.
So right there, what he's explaining is that's the fuel gauge.
Oh.
So it can tell you how many laps that you have left, in terms of fuel. And, just these simple, look at how heavy that is on the car, this big computer chip that they stuck on the car. I don't know if we can see a wider shot here of just the cockpit. So you can just see how much simpler it was back in the day. And it just really struck me because I saw, a recent picture of a Formula One steering wheel. Yeah, an H pattern shifter as well. It's just funny. Look at all that clunky hardware on the side of that car, man.
To do it an H pattern as an F1 driver.
Yeah,
they were insane back then. Could you that'd be so hard to do. Now you have your flappy paddles.
Yeah,
but an H pattern gear shifter at as you're going around at 180 miles an hour through corners, switching gears, driving with one hand with no power steering. It's crazy.
Very impressive. So yeah, it was very interesting to me, and I had a good laugh kind of watching it. Just in terms of how much it's grown in the sport, because all of that is now on the dashboard of the steering wheel, and alongside with 100 more buttons. But yeah, I found it pretty funny just watching that. The last thing we'll do just to wrap up today's show, so we're going to try and do this every week, just sort of provide you with a historic photo or video of what we find during the week of previous years in Formula One. And today's historic photo, we got James Hunt in the Wolf Ford from 1979 in Monaco.
Can we appreciate, I know we can appreciate the car, but what I noticed of this photo is that there's no catch fence or anything. And you just have the marshals chilling there.
Yeah, I'm
just chilling.
Do you see the officer in the background? I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's a police officer.
Oh, it is, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Look at how close that they used to get.
He's doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's behind the tape, right? So I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he's okay for now. But, I mean, if a car goes off, I'm not sure.
Oh, the tape will stop it.
Yeah, that was back when safety was sort of not so important. I'm not sure if James Hunt was wearing a seatbelt in this picture, but
he might not have been.
He might not have been. Well, knowing James Hunt, I mean, he's probably had a cigarette before he went out on track.
Probably
anyway.
has one in his mouth right now.
Exactly. So that was from all the way back in 1979. So this is courtesy of @F1 Images on Twitter. So you guys can check them out. They provide some really neat looks back in the past from photos and videos. So just a little something we'll try and provide you guys after every episode.
That was fun.
Tyler McDonald, I think we're gonna wrap this up. Any parting comments or words from you?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I think we got through everything.
Yeah.
Other than I'm excited for next week. Next week and the week after.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see cars back on the track officially.
Officially, exactly. We're very close. 2 weeks away. Next week we'll be back. We're going to do our Australian Grand Prix preview. So we're just going to take a little bit of a closer look at the first race in Australia. We'll see if any news happens throughout the week. Any breaking news or anything like that. And we'll see.
News that we'll give it to you a week later.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. we try and stay on top of it either way. But in the meantime, you guys can subscribe to us on YouTube, the BackMarkers F1 Show. You can also follow us on Twitter. It's @TBMF1 Show, and also on Facebook. Like, subscribe, hit us up with some tweets or emails on what you want to see on the show.
Emails. What is this? 2005?
Email. I don't know. I might put the phone out there as well. Give us a phone call. Yeah. If you got any questions or if you got any topics that you'd want us to cover, we greatly appreciate it. And hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all of our latest content. Tyler McDonald, thank you very much once again. It's good to have you here as always. And until next time, we'll be back next week. Make sure you look out for our episode, but it's bye for now. Thank you very much for joining us.